Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize first. Our executive session went a fair bit longer than we planned, and so I apologize for having you wait here, but we are now prepared to start. Call the meeting to order, noting that we have a quorum present. One more moment here. I'm going to appoint a taskmaster. Let's see who can do that here today. Kathy, could you do that for us? Just make the notes as they come up. First thing on the agenda is our open forum. And welcome to come up here and speak on anything you wish to speak on. You'll have 3 minutes, and we have a light system up here. 30 seconds before we want you to wrap up, it'll turn yellow and then turn. Oh, I'm sorry. They're going to get me trained here eventually. Need a motion to adopt today's meeting agenda. Moved by Mr. Giddings.
We have an add, Mr. President, under 6B. We're adding 2 LRP recommendations, 3 new members.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So that we have that's so noted.
Was that a first?
Yeah, we have a first, we have a second to adopt the agenda as just been modified. And second, we have all in favor? Opposed? Passed. Ellen? Right. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Passed unanimously. Let's move on to the forum.
I'm Bob Anchix, 138 White Oak Drive, and I'm a member of the Fairfield Owners Association.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay. Bob Anchix, 138 White Oak Drive, member of the Fairfield Owners Association, and that's why I'm here. Some thoughts on landscape maintenance requirements. Since so much of our yards, and certainly in my association, are now landscaped with shrubs instead of grass, I think it's time to reconsider some of the Architectural Committee's landscape criteria. I believe some of the present criteria is too restrictive and results in very high maintenance costs. For instance, mulch, it's expensive. Mandatory replacement every 3 years is very expensive. We're on a 5-year schedule. If we change to 3 years, the cost of mulch on an annualized basis would be more than the cost of painting our houses. I admit, I recognize we're using an expensive mulch. It's small bark, but the people like it, and we'd like to have it look like that. We do not like arbor mulch, and we do not like chips. So it's a matter of personal choice. Recently, I was walking along Fairfield and saw some old-looking large mulch. I asked the owner, how old is it? He says, well, I don't know. We've been here 18 years, and it was the year when we bought it. So it shouldn't be a hard rule that you do it every 3 years. And I found mulch. Shrubs. The requirement is shrubs should cover 50% of the ground area unless specially approved by the architectural committee. We believe there should be more flexibility. Some people prefer less dense coverage. I happen to be happy with 50%, but not everybody in our board or our landscape committee are. They like a sparser coverage. And the replacement costs, the more shrubs you have, the more it costs. Replacing them, we spent $6,000 this year replacing dead shrubs. There's the shorn look, you know, the Oakmont wave. I don't like it, but it should be personal choice. So I believe the board should direct the architectural committee to revisit the criteria. Thank you.
Anybody else would have something to say? Okay, we'll move along to item number 4, it's announcements and such. I've got a couple items here to discuss. One of them, if you have not seen, that the board increased the dues by $5 a month for the coming year. I want to explain why we did that. As you know, we've had a lot of projects going on here. Much of it due to deferred maintenance. It's coming along very well. The East Rec Center, as you know, locker rooms were redone. Buildings being repainted. It's almost finished. It looks beautiful. We've had problems with our switchgear, and that will be installed here just after Christmas. You might notice that out here in the parking lot, there's a new piece of equipment still in its crate. All of that old transformer and the material equipment inside of that ugly fenced area will go away. We paid for that recently. We've got a major project going on at the West Rec Center, and we started out with a budget there of around $700,000, knowing it would go higher because the building's 40 years old, and there were questions about how long it's going to last, what would happen to it in the case of an earthquake. We had engineers come in. Anyway, that whole project has been sitting for a number of years, is finally moving forward very well. And of course, we have found a few minor things that will increase the cost, but not hugely, nothing particularly unexpected. We've got upcoming costs with our office situation. We have a lease coming up. We have to decide what we want to do about that. And all the other little surprises that hit us. One of the things that we were concerned about is that over the past few years, we've been very fortunate, and since Oakmont had not been fully built out, we had the orchards, we had Quail Run, and now the Meadows project, and each one of those when the house was completed and sold, brought income to the Oakmont Village Association. Well, at this point, we know we're going to be getting money as they sell out these last 36 houses. After that, that's not coming in anymore. So that fortuitous revenue we've had, that source is going to be gone. And it's our duty as the governors of our organization to make sure that we're financially responsible and take care of our fiduciary responsibilities. And looking toward that, there's been a consensus, and then we voted for it, that we increase the dues by $5 a month, starting now, rather than wait until we run into a position where our funds are drained, and knowing that we're not going to have any more income to fill them back up as we've had in the past. So I wanted to explain that up front. Another issue that's come up just recently, I'm going to touch upon it. We are not going to be taking any action upon it today, that we put in place. This action, how many people of you are here today have a particular interest or volunteering with the Oakmont Emergency Preparedness Committee. Can I see your hand? There's a number of people here, and I know there's a bit of concern there. Let me put your fears to rest and explain why we've taken the recent action. If you haven't seen the recent action, is that I directed our manager, Cassie, to put a hold on activities of the OEPC, and for this is the following reason. For many years, this has been a group, it was called a committee, but it was never an official committee of the board. Up until recently, it's been continually growing and improving. We have a very large number of COPE representatives, zone communicators of communications, the medical people, and all of these kinds of things. And we've worked very hard to put the infrastructure in place to support that. And to do that, we came to the part where the OEPC came to the board and said, can you give us some money to take care of our expenses? Just about the same time that occurred, we did approve that, and they became an official committee. We found out something interesting. It changes our balance and our liability. And it turns out that as we have it currently structured, the OEPC as an official committee under the Oakmont Village Association, under the board of directors, under the corporation, sets us up for unprecedented liability in the case of an emergency. Now, I was speaking of a liability to the corporation, not to the individual volunteers, as you're covered under the Good Samaritan law. A corporation would not be. So if something were to happen, we would be wide open to a lawsuit, and we cannot allow that to happen. So what we did was for the time being, until this work out the details, of which we're doing on an ongoing basis, and hopefully get solved within a very short time, inactivated the actual response if something were to happen from the OEPC. The OEPC still exists. All the volunteers are still part of the system. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is we've sort of shifted into neutral for a very short period of time until we get things lined out with further advice from our legal counsel and to put together a program to allow us to move forward. This is very important to the community. A tremendous amount of work has gone into this over the years. Untold hours of volunteer work. And we have not changed that in any way. And it will not be changed in any way. The only thing that will change is the official connection between the corporation and the team of volunteers that we have. I wouldn't normally do this, but is everyone clear on what I just said? Are there any questions? Okay, then we'll move on.
What? He has a question.
Hello?
I'm sorry, we do have questions I missed.
The business of OEP.
Can you use the microphone, please? Everybody have a chance to hear what you have to say. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to make sure this is clear, that we don't have a problem.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask, are you removing item number B6, since you did some talking about this subject?
That's just not the minutes correction. That's only the thing correct.
Right, but we could,
That does not apply to this particular.
but that's what I wanted to know. I mean, it's just the correction of the minutes, but are we going to be able to speak to the item or no?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, are you through with this item?
No, we're not through with this. We have a couple of people that want to comment, as I request them to do, on whether they understood what I just explained.
My name is Chris Mullins. I live at 7580 Oakwood Drive, and I volunteered as assistant zone communicator. And my question is, OEPC was recently folded into the OVA group, and this is what's triggered this cease and desist order, or has it always been that way? You're just figuring it out, or what?
We're-
That's the only part I don't understand.
No.
I understand the
We
line.
recently, there had been some questions in the past about the relationship between the OEPC and the board. We said, well, why wasn't the board involved? And so we looked at that and said, well, yeah, maybe the board should be involved, and that would imply that the Oakmont Village Association was involved. When that happened, we realized that we'd opened up another can of worms that we're addressing right now, so we don't run into a problem and allow everything to continue the way it was going, but without having any legal problems.
Aren't the residents of Oakmont OVE, OVA? I mean, there's a corporation, I guess, but aren't we?
The legal question is whether or not the corporation, with OVA, I use that as the word representing the corporation, becomes has legal liabilities exposed by taking the OEPC under its wing as a committee directly, as far as the reporting structure is concerned.
Do you know when that happened?
Yeah, within the last month, I would say.
Oh,
Yes, this is
very new.
It's all very new, and as we moved down this road, we found that there was some roadkill that we ran over, and we're going to go back and fix it.
I'd like to clarify something.
Thank you.
The clarification to your question, and I might be misunderstanding your question, is that the minute that the OVA Corporation wrapped OEPC around itself, it was in error.
Got it.
So for 3 years, it shouldn't have done that. The liability was extreme to have that. And at the end of the line, there might have been not any insurance for the committee members anyway. So the questions were asked now of the attorney and the association insurance people. We got pretty much the same answers from both, but at different dates and times. So what we want to do is, as a group, sit down and talk with both of them at the same time, just so we can hammer out how we can get this covered and the different layers of insurance that's possible to cover these people, and how separate OEPC has to remain from OPA.
Did you say Oakmont folded in OEPC 3 years ago or 1 month ago?
It is my understanding that this is at least a 3-year-old committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't been.
No, not the committee. When did OVA fold in OEPC? You just said 3 years ago.
That was my.
John said 1 month ago. That's,
Good question.
you can't be uninformed for 3 years. That doesn't make sense.
Right, well, I've only been here a year.
No.
But it was my
Not you.
understanding that OEPC was recognized as a committee approximately 3 years ago. But I haven't been here 3 years, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Mr. Gidding?
My understanding is that we were unaware of some liabilities we had taken on for quite some time.
But the liabilities were always there.
Yes.
Is the law new? I mean,
No.
someone,
I question it.
that's information.
I
mean,
question, because I'm a risk assessment person who's trained as a manager. A bell went off in my head when OEPC started to ask for funding. Because if you ask for funding, what does that mean as part of a committee and the liability structure between the OVA Corporation and this committee? Is the committee covered? Is the organization covered? How does it connect as an insurance item? So all of these things had to be investigated and researched, and I found for now, until we get some real clarification from our insurance broker and our attorney, that we need to just not do anything in the interim.
But your question would have existed 3 years ago.
Had I been the manager 3 years
Because
ago,
the
yes.
law that you're concerned about, the liability, was always there. So if someone didn't know about it, or didn't read the law, or didn't act upon it, or...
There's a lot of things that I'm sure we don't know.
But it's out there available, is that correct? I mean, it's transparent.
It's not like you can go and find this information on a website. Because it
How
has to
about
do
in a
with...
law book, or case studies,
It has
or...
to do with
legislators.
homeowners associations. It has to do with homeowners associations. It has to do with their committee structure. It has to do with the type of insurance that they have as a homeowners association. Some associations cover their committees under workers' comp or liability. Other associations don't have that kind of coverage. There's layer upon layer upon layer of information that you have to uncover and discuss and evaluate in order to get your answer. So it's a rather complex issue.
It sounds like you're tightening it up now.
We'll try.
No, I endorse everything Cassie said, and it's out there, but it's not transparent. It even goes down to different insurance companies define who the insured is differently.
Yeah.
So, as Cassie said, there are layers, or we're going to have to cut this way and cut this way and cut this way if we're going to retain some liability or not. But
Okay.
it's a little maze we have to go through.
Okay, well, good luck. In the meantime, I'd like to think that all of us would be good neighbors in the event of something happening, that you would still help the person next door.
Yes.
Forget about the liability.
And that way.
The cease and
we're
desist thing that I read
covered.
looked pretty like, whoa, don't touch anybody. It's like, you
As a
gotta be kidding
group,
me.
as a group,
Okay.
not as a neighbor.
Okay, thank you.
As a neighbor, you're still covered under the Good Samaritan law.
Well, it's also
you're
a
not
nice
covered
thing to do. So.
as a group. That's a question.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I'd like to wrap this up, because this was not official discussion set up. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what we explained. So,
Excuse me for a minute, put it in the news. I want to say something, it'll take me about 3 minutes. I'm going to ask a question that's germane to exactly what we're talking about.
this is the last question I'm going to take. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Microphone.
Let's take
Microphone.
Again, here we go, not mad. My name is Richard Green. I live at 8840 Oak Point Drive. I'm a co-leader, and we work very closely with the, if you will, product that comes out of this emergency preparedness committee. The concern that my members have is, as an adjunct, such as it is, of the OEPC being by virtue of this COPE setup, do we have liability? Because you just mentioned using individual liability. We're functioning as a group. I don't know if you have an answer to that. If you don't, would you find one out and let us know? Because I'm telling you, right now, we're paralyzed with indecision. And then lastly, I think this insurance issue about 1 year, 3 year, whatever, to be explained. You went and bought a new car and forgot to put it on your insurance policy until later date. That's basically what I think happened here. So it's too bad, but it's done. So anyway, but if you could find an answer to that, let us know. I appreciate it, because I have 12 inquiring minds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Item number 5 refers to actions taken outside of the board meeting. There were none, which brings us to the consent calendar.
I think I missed my moment here.
I'm sorry, yes. Item 4B, you've got the floor, sir.
This is in reference to the executive meeting minutes taken on October 21, 2014. We had a dispute involving a late payment of assessments, which we resolved to the satisfaction of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and my apologies. It takes us to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as published? Moved by Alan Scott, seconded by Herman Hess. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Takes us to the treasurer's report. Chuck?
Okay, for the month of October, we had revenue of $179,000 with expenses of $170,000, leaving us a $9,000 surplus. On a year-to-date basis, the revenue was $1,721,000, which was 0.2% worse than budget, with expenses of $1,647,000, which was 5% better than budget, leaving us a surplus of almost $75,000. The transfers from the funds to the funds were all equal to budget, and the cash in the various accounts, the operating fund $524,000, asset replacement $957,000, capital improvement $1,303,000, and catastrophe $109,000 for a total cash position of $2,894,000.
Thank you, Chuck.
And I have acceptance by the board of the report, not of me, but of the report.
The motion to accept the report given by our treasurer. Moved by Andy, seconded by Herb Hess. All in favor? Passed unanimous. Manager's report.
It's a quick report. I believe that the backup that everyone has speaks for itself, and I think enough people have asked the questions about the 55 and older age verification, and we're really pleased with the amount of people that have come forward, and this has been very helpful to us. This is an ongoing task. It's theoretically supposed to happen every 2 years. We're looking into that to see if we really have to go through this every 2 years. And, but we're really thankful that all of you have come forward, and I think you do realize that you're not under the gun to supply us with your ID and have a copy. We can verify that we saw it and write on your verification and confirm it, so that we don't have to keep any of your identification. That's an important point. And the West Rec Center is coming along, but the one big issue as we're heading into the winter is going to be the stucco. We can do the work inside the building, but it's going to be taking about 8 weeks to do all of the different layers to the stucco on the outside of the building. So we all want rain, but I don't want rain. So let's see what happens. So the outside of the building might take longer than the inside to do.
Do we have a rough estimate
Of when?
of back-end use?
For the inside, possibly mid-January.
Any other questions regarding the manager's report? Okay, move along to item 9. Wally? Whoops.
No, I'm not
You don't
Wally.
look like Wally.
You misunderstood. Wally used to give these reports for the OCDC, and he suggested that we should do it again. He used to bring us up to date. When I was on the board, it was very handy. So if you don't mind, it is Susan Millar, Chair of the OCDC, and I'll give you a little short synopsis.
Excuses, I just read what I saw in front of me. Right.
That's right. Okay, here are some of the items that we've been working on. You know, we've been working on the pedestrian bridge to Annandale, and I haven't got a document prepared yet, but I would like to make a joint request with the LRP that the OVA board put this item on your project list. You know, that kind of Caltrans list that things go up and down and something might float to the top. Because if it's not on a list at all, then you don't consider it. And, you know, we would just like to see it on that possible, you know, future project list. There are a lot of things that need to come together for that particular project, and a lot of things that haven't intersected yet, including the lawsuit between the Wild Oak Villages and the city of Santa Rosa. The Ledson Cunningham Winery project down the road, which everybody has been aware of since the walnut orchard was taken out. It appears that Steve Ledson is going to be required to have an EIR for that project. And Wally assures me, and believe me, I consult Wally all the time. He assures me that it is the county that picks out the company that will actually do the EIR. So that has to happen before he can continue with his application to build the winery, the crush pad, the barns, the tasting rooms, and the old-fashioned building. You won't have to wear a costume when you go, okay? El Noca, everybody's wondering what's happened to El Noca. They were almost ready to submit their plans when they realized that the hill that they were going to put some of the homes on top of was designated mistakenly in the master plan as the highest ridge line, and they were not going to be allowed to build there, but the city of Santa Rosa has acknowledged that was a mistake in the plan, and so they have applied for a modification. The highest ridge line is actually Annandale, so I don't know how long that will take, but they are ready to go. They've got their plans in place. El Noca will be built. The Annandale winery is kind of confusing, so I'm not going to try to explain it completely to you, but Dean Borgione, in consort and partnership with Nova Vines, is now going to be able to build the intersection that he wants to, or that he must have in order to have cars go into the property where he would like to maintain his winery. It's kind of confusing because the property that he and Nova Vines bought together is a property that has no building, no tasting room yet, but they have permission to have 30 events there. So that's going to make that rather attractive for somebody else to buy. And he does have that portion of the property for sale. But the intersection will be built, and we think the beginning of the year is when you'll see that going in. An idea that came up at our last meeting is for the board to meet some of the new council members. There's 3 brand new ones that we haven't dealt with before. So it's going to be party time for you guys, okay? Another thing that we've been keeping our eye on, which is very complicated, is a southeast bike path that might use some of the Caltrans excess property right-of-way that they are going to be getting rid of. How they're going to get rid of it, we're not really completely sure of yet. But tied in with that whole question of where do bicyclists go is what's going to happen to the water treatment plant and what's going to happen to the bridge that now goes over the creek by the treatment plant. And I'm sure you're well aware that that also has multiple, players, and we don't know yet. If that bridge should be pulled out, it might put our other project a little bit higher on your project list, and might not, we don't know, but we want it out there. And of course, we all know that we don't want a water treatment plant. I hope we can avoid that. So those are some of the projects that we're discussing at our OCDC meetings. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Sue, could I ask one question?
Only if I know the answer. Yeah.
I'll say it soft.
Okay.
Is the Valley of the Moon Alliance still in contact with us?
Yes, they definitely are, and we have had members going there and keeping track of things. Will Haymaker gave a synopsis of their last meeting. Also, anybody can go on their website, VOTMA, all caps VOTMA.org, and they have a complete list of what's been approved by the PRMD and, you know, all of the stats you might like. I will say this, since you brought that up. I think this whole question of the permits that are given to the wineries for events and tasting rooms and so forth is starting to come to a head. And one of the things that OVA is very concerned with is what they call overconcentration of tasting rooms. And there's 3 areas that they're very collecting a lot of data on, and that is the West Dry Creek, their own Kenwood, and our upper Sonoma Valley here, and down by the Cornerstone Beyonce. And those permits are given out and they go with the deed. And I think it makes certain properties very attractive to the larger corporations. And we're seeing more and more of that, you know, the sale of properties. So VOTMA has a lot of information on that if anyone wants to find out more. Okay, thanks.
Don't run away just yet.
Okay.
A couple comments to make. I speak for everybody in Oakmont. I've noticed recently that the traffic is, if you say going towards Santa Rosa, in the afternoon, it stacks all the way up from our light here clear down the street. And I don't understand how it is possible that the county supervisors keep approving new stuff and they're totally ignoring the situation. It's only going to get worse. And I think one of the things that may be contributing to it, but as a minor, is that when they started, at one time the signals all the way down Highway 12 were pretty well timed. When they went back and repaved it, I think they went to some kind of a manual system, because in the past there was never a problem with side traffic tripping the light. Now it just goes off arbitrarily. I just wondered if there's some way that you can influence, and your group could influence the county in taking a closer look at the traffic situation, which they seem to continually ignore.
I guess we could call up and find out if that's exactly what happened, what you described. I also wonder if they're kind of experimenting a little bit, because there's been so many requests for left-hand turn lanes, and you know the Madrone light is working now. And Caltrans also said, El Noca, you cannot have your own light. It's too close to Melita, not anymore. So they're going to have a light at El Noca, Melita, a new intersection at Oakmont, and the Madrone light is now in action. And one of the things that Mr. Ledson would like is a, you know, left-hand turn to get into his property instead of using the existing roads there. So, yeah, okay, we'll call Caltrans and see if, I don't know, I'll find out who we're supposed to talk to get an answer.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't think there's any objections to anybody following up on that account. I'm going to go back and check something I may have missed. Tony Blackowitz, you have 3 additions of people to your committee. Did you want to?
That was part of the consent.
Okay, it was already covered on the consent agenda. I'm sorry. There was an extra note that said, "Don't forget to do it."
The appointments were made.
Pardon me?
No, they're not.
The appointments made.
Did you want to comment any further on that?
I'm
Okay.
asking, were the appointments made?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My error. I just didn't want to miss anything and get hammered later.
Okay, John, that good?
Thank you.
Try to find out what I can about the stoplights. Okay.
Let's move on to new business. The OVA policy determining resident or caregivers. Discussion on that.
What that is it's already appeared in the newspaper. So it was just a policy that was in place that was explained in more detail. And so all the board has to do is to just approve the policy. And it's about caregivers. And let me just explain what it is. It's the caregiver policy, or the condensed version of who can live in Oakmont. It boils down to anybody can own a home in Oakmont. Only a senior citizen, or one of the exceptions below, can live and use the home. Here are the people who can live in Oakmont. Any person age 55 or older, i.e. a senior citizen. 45-year-olds who have lived with the senior citizen prior to his or her death or prolonged absence and are either a spouse or a senior citizen, cohabitant of the senior citizen, domestic partner of the senior citizen, or a person providing primary, physical, or economic care to the senior citizen. The paid permitted health care resident who is hired to take care of the senior citizen and live in his or her home does not get to stay after the person moves or passes on. Are there any questions? So that's the caregiver policy, that clarification that you're approving.
Thank you.
I have a comment. Apparently, there's a state statute that deals with this, and I went on the internet and I got a copy of it, and I have to apologize. I got the section, but I forgot what code I found it under, whether it's corporation code, health code, or what have you. So I can provide that later. But the law itself is 3 pages long, dealing with caregivers. I think it might be wise that when we post the policy on the internet, that we make reference to the actual law for further explanation of what can and can't be done as far as caregivers.
Great idea. Can you give me that when you can find it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, great, thanks.
Okay, no questions on that. I'll move on to item 10B, electric vehicles and
You
maintenance.
need to pass, you need to make a.
I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to accept that policy? Moved by Alan Scott, second by Fran Diaz. All in favor? Opposed? Cast unanimous. Okay, now we'll go to electric vehicles. Mark Rogers, our maintenance manager, will be giving us a presentation on what he has in mind and a little bit about why it looks it may be or not a good idea.
Okay. I'm Mark Rogers, Facility Maintenance Manager here at Oakland. In the year that I've been here, I've looked at and found 4 different vendors for electric vehicles for us to use, maintenance department to use here on site. Currently, we have 1 vehicle for 10 staff members to go to our 3 sites for multiple setups throughout the day. And if we have to go to multiple facilities, we currently pay 56 cents a mile for our employees, my staff, to go ahead and reimburse them. Currently, year to date, we are at $3,696.16. So that is out of pocket, above and beyond what we're paying. Fuel for our vehicle for the year to date is $5,424.60, and we currently pay about $1,300 a year in insurance. So I was asked when I did a presentation last fall, just after I got here, earlier this year, and then to the Finance Committee back in August, go ahead and do return on investment for vehicles. The lowest cost ones are about $10,000 a piece. One would be a 4-person people mover. The other would be a 2-people maintenance utility vehicle. Again, they're about $10,000 a piece. So our return on investment for cost, we would eliminate the out-of-pocket mileage and then cut down quite a bit on our fuel cost for the vehicle that we have. We would still keep that. So return on investment is less than 3 years. But the thing that I have brought up multiple times when I did these presentations was liability of our employees driving their personal vehicle on OVA property. We haven't had any incidents. but it's certainly something that I would express to the board and to all the members. It's a concern of mine, concern of the board, to go ahead and see if we can go ahead, once people get on site, to use vehicles that are owned by OVA, to go ahead and to get around. And these would be, they're street legal to 25 miles an hour. They are fully street ready. Lights, turn signals, seat belts, solid doors, and they would be used primarily on the OVA property and OVA streets. So current, for the lowest cost that I got out of 4 vendors, is about $10,000 a piece. They do come with an 18-month warranty, bumper to bumper, and have an expected lifespan of the latest generation lithium-ion batteries of about 5 years. The item that comes up the most when they compare a gas fuel vehicle to an electric vehicle is cost per mile, including maintenance. An electric vehicle, it's about 4 cents a mile. For a gas vehicle, it's about 12 cents a mile. So that's where we do have that savings. And again, return on investment is, in my opinion, pretty quick.
Mark, has that run through the Finance Committee at this point?
It has. They approved $21,800 back in September or August 25th. And
actually, Mark, we approved up to $20,000.
$20,000.
Approved September 25th.
Okay. We did some accessories. We did purchase a utility trailer. I had them go back and look at a price for a hitch. And when I originally proposed this for Finance Committee to go ahead and do that, the company that was potentially supplying us had a delivery coming out to Stanford University, and they were going to credit us some of that delivery charge. But since we have delayed that until now, we have incurred a little bit of cost for them to deliver the vehicles to us if we decide to purchase them.
Alan?
Where would these vehicles be stored and kept? Let me put it that way.
The vehicles are small enough we could actually pull them inside to the maintenance building if we wanted to, but they have fiberglass doors, roofs. They're completely waterproof, weatherproof, so we could park them outside in our small storage area or in a parking space.
You're purchasing or suggesting the purchase of the most inexpensive vehicles. Would there be any advantage of paying more for higher quality vehicles, or are they higher quality, or why did you choose the most inexpensive?
They are high quality. They are vehicles from 2010 that are refurbished, and they are with the latest lithium-ion batteries. So they're actually turned in for refurbishment. And so they are as good as quality as the other 3 vendors that I found at a lower cost. So because they are quote-unquote used vehicles, we get that advantage of a lower cost, still solid quality, and brand new lithium-ion batteries that have quite a long lifespan.
Mark, if I missed it, I apologize, but how are we disposing of our gas vehicle?
We would not. We would keep that vehicle. We have a Ford Ranger that we would use because of the number of staff. We are fully staffed at 10 people. And sometimes we need to go ahead and go to all 3 sites or 2 sites, east and west, at the same time.
Then we're not saving as much money?
We would be, and our biggest thing would be fuel cost of the vehicle, of the Ford Ranger that we have. We would be lowering the use of that quite a bit.
Understood, but the numbers you gave us at the beginning were electric versus gas, right?
No, they're actually mileage cost, out-of-pocket cost that we reimburse maintenance employees is almost $3,700. That would completely go away. We would not reimburse employees anymore for using their personal vehicles on OVA property to go from site to site. The second one is a year-to-date of fuel cost of the Ranger that we have now. With electric vehicles, we would lower use of that dramatically.
You anticipate getting rid of the Ranger at some point?
I do not, no. We would still need that to pick up material over into Santa Rosa. Like I said, these are low-speed vehicles. They're allowed on streets with a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour, but they would be used by staff on OVA property.
My question, Mark, has to do with the electric vehicle. Do you have sufficient charging stations within OVA such that you can go to the extremities, west end, east end, without having to worry about recharging the vehicle?
They actually plug into a household standard 120 volt. So there is no, all of the conversion is done in the vehicle itself. So any standard electric cord they would plug in. They have a range between 35 and 45 miles per charge. It takes between 4 and 6 hours to go from completely drained to a full charge. So that would be, we would plug them in overnight and be ready for the morning and then the afternoon shift. And with the new lithium-ion batteries, there is no memory. So you can charge, if you get to a site, you have an hour to clean up, we can plug it in without any specter or of only using part of the battery. So if we need to go ahead and run it all day, we don't have any issues with longevity of use.
There any other questions? Personally, when I looked at the situation, it seems like it makes pretty good sense all the way around. Anytime you can get a return on investment of 3 years or less, that's usually a pretty good deal. It means after that, everything's paid for, and the savings go on. So essentially, for the first 3 years, they pay for themselves.
John, I have one more question. What's the exact sum that you need?
With delivery to us is $21,800.
I move that we approve of the purchase of 2 electric vehicles for up to $21,000.
Are they still available?
They are. I've been in contact with the representative, and these vehicles are ready anytime we would, if we do purchase them, they put those on hold for us.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Go ahead with the purchase. We have a second. Second by Herm Hess. All in favor? Well, okay, discussion, I'm sorry.
Just a matter of what we do after a motion.
I know, I'm still in training, remember? So is there any discussion? We have a question here in the front row.
Item 10B says discuss, it doesn't say action.
You can take an action on a discussion, as long as it's listed. As long as it's a listed agenda item.
Can't hear you.
As long as it's a listed agenda item, a discussion can go into action.
I call the question. Yes. All in favor? Passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your new vehicles.
I certainly shall.
Your new old vehicle. Next item on the agenda is the board resolution involving the 2015 capital improvement funding. Cassie, do you have anything on this? I suspect.
What are, can you hear me now? Okay. What our attorney suggested is, based on our review of the association's articles of incorporation bylaws and the generic CC&Rs applicable to an individual owners association, we found no specific reference to the account in the governing documents, meaning the CIF account. We also found no language in the governing documents prohibiting the association from contributing to and the maintenance use of the account. So what the attorney did is do a board resolution to confirm and contribute to a capital improvement account to just make sure that it's clear what it's to be used for and how much money we're going to be put into it at the end of this year. And so for the year 2015, we're going to, through assessments, put in $109,285 into the capital improvement fund.
I hear a motion to accept this recommendation. Andy?
It would become part of the minutes, which anyone can read. If you would like to read them, go right ahead. It's a public document. Would you feel better if I read it? Okay.
The board resolution to confirm and contribute to a capital improvement account. Whereas pursuant to the articles of incorporation and bylaws of the association, the board of directors of the association is vested with the duty to manage the business and affairs of the association. Whereas the primary purpose of the association is to provide athletic, community, recreational, and club facilities and architectural authority to the members of the association. Whereas in furtherance of the board's power and duty to provide recreational and community facilities, the board must manage the financial accounts of the association. Whereas in addition to the association's operating account, which is used for day-to-day association expenses, and the association's reserve account, which is used for long-term repairs and replacements of community facilities, the board believes it is in the best interest of the association to maintain a capital improvement account in order to undertake new projects and facilities for the association's members. Whereas the board has recently contracted and will continue to contract for the association to undergo several projects for new improvements within the association's community facilities. Whereas new capital improvements caused to be performed by the association shall include, without limitation, the addition of previously non-existing structures, improvements and/or facilities, as well as the removal and new replacement of previously existing structures, improvements, and/or facilities. Whereas in order to fund the capital improvement account for such new improvements, a portion of the assessments paid by all members of the association will be used to contribute to the capital improvement account. Whereas for the 2015 calendar year, a portion of assessments due and collected from each member of the association will be used to contribute a total dollar amount of $109,285 into the capital improvement account. Whereas the board will decide hereafter on an annual basis what amount of money will be contributed into the association's capital improvement account. Whatever money is contributed into the capital improvement account for new improvements, a portion of assessments due and collected from each member of the association will be used to contribute to such total dollar amount. Whereas the board desires to confirm the need and existence of the capital improvement account, the current contribution to the capital improvement account, as well as the future authority to contribute to the capital improvement account, is necessary in the board's sole discretion. Resolution. It is hereby resolved that the foregoing recitals are incorporated into and made part of this resolution in their entirety. It is hereby further resolved that the capital improvement account will be used to fund new improvement projects for the association's recreational and community facilities and for any other purposes not inconsistent with the purpose of the association. It is hereby further resolved that $109,285 will be contributed into the capital improvement account for the 2015 calendar year through the collection of assessments due and collected from the members of this association. It is hereby further resolved that in accordance with the board's powers and/or duties, the board may continue to utilize the capital improvement account and cause the contribution to the capital improvement account on an annual basis in furtherance of the association's purpose. It is hereby further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be maintained in the association's official records.
And that is why you hire attorneys for resolutions.
So I hear a motion to accept the resolution as just read.
John? Okay.
Moved by Andy, seconded by Director Giddings. Any discussion?
Yes, I missed the budget session because I was out of state. And I'm not sure I understand or appreciate or approve of the definition of a capital improvement fund, how those monies can be dedicated, and whether their dedication has been appropriate over the last year. I would appreciate more time, another session till the next work session, to study that and find out exactly what the definition of the capital improvement fund is and how those monies can be used, and whether they should have been transferred to some projects beforehand. So I would have some time to find out more about this.
I think we've already had recommendations from our council and other professionals in this area that question, that we've already gone beyond that point. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor of adopting the resolution? Opposed? That's no, or, and one abstention. Thank you. Let's move along to item 10D, and turn the floor over to Mr. Giddings to discuss the nominating committee.
I have some reading also. I hope I do it as well as Andy. The section 5.4 of the bylaws, on or before December 1st of each year, the Board of Directors by resolution shall appoint a nominating committee of 5 members from the membership at large, one of whom shall be designated as chairman. To this end, about 2 months ago, the board came up with a number of candidates to be chair of the nominating committee and tasked me with contacting these people. As it turned out, the first person I contacted after a week of thought said he would do it. That person is Brian Adams, will be the chair of the nominating committee. In the interim time, he has obtained 5 other volunteers to join the committee. That makes a total of 6. Calls for 5. So the 6th one, Kathleen Connolly, will act as a consultant to Brian because she was the nominating chair last year and would be able to help the newly formed committee. The other members of the committee are Barbara Lynch, Tony Lamarca, Paul Heidenreich, and Pat Amadeo. Not later than February 1st, the nominating committee shall present to the Board of Directors for publication a slate of not less than 2 more nominees than the number of directors to be elected by the members of the association. We have 4 possible vacancies, so we'll need 6 candidates. The names of the nominees shall appear and be published in a random listing without an indication of preference. The chairman of the nominating committee shall make a formal nomination of the slate of nominees at the February Board of Directors meeting. Upon completion of this act, the nominating committee shall be automatically dissolved, which means for the board that we'll have to select somebody, if we have a candidate tonight, to be a moderator of that event, since the nominating committee will be dissolved. That does not fall automatically to Brian Adams. I want to thank personally Brian Adams for taking this task on and getting the volunteers to thank them also, and submit this to the board for their approval before December 1st, i.e. today.
Would you like to present a motion?
The motion would be to accept the committee as named by me with Brian Adams as chair.
Thank you. Second by Andy. Discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Next item, 10E, the 2014 CPA James Ernst Accounting Engagement Letter. We have anything, Cassie, do you have anything to bring us up to date on that?
It's nothing. It just went out.
Okay, so I think what we're doing is we're taking action to...
Yeah, it's nothing unusual. It's the usual annual CPA audit by the same James Ernst Accounting Service that you've been using for many, many years. And I don't believe there's even a price, the CPA, it's 6,000? Okay, or 6,000.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the recommendation to... So moved by Alan Scott. Second. Mr. Giddings, all in favor? Up, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? I guess you passed unanimously. Hey, it takes us to unfinished business, the West Facility Locker Room project costs. I touched a little earlier. We started out with a number of estimated $700,000 approximately. We put in a factor to go over that amount, which we were pretty sure we were going to be doing. Explain the situation that we had. We knew certain things were defined as work to be done. We knew how the locker rooms were going to be designed. We knew what kinds of other areas that needed correction and such. The big unknown is after the stucco was pulled off the outside of the building, what were we going to find in the way of deteriorated wood or additional fastenings that might be needed to be adjusted or added to meet seismic requirements and such. But we knew that we were going to find some things. We did find some small amount of rot in the corners of those of the building. Now remember, this is a 40-year-old building. No, actually, we found quite a bit less damage that we thought we could have had. It was really hard to anticipate, and knowing ahead of time that that would have been, not knowing what was behind the wall, so to speak, was going to be handled on a time and material basis. So that hasn't gone terribly outside of what our expectations were. The selections of the tiles and the colors and the other thing is really going to be nice. Now, one of the things I'd like to emphasize when we look at this project is that we're taking a 40-year-old building and we're doing everything we can to bring it up to the modern standards and to last, hopefully, another 40 years and to look good and meet all of our requirements. So we haven't skimped on anything. Now, one of the reasons the costs went a little higher than we originally planned, when the plans went to the city, they came back and says, oh, wait a minute, the upstairs bathrooms and the kitchen, you're going to have to be addressed for ADA accessibility, and that we didn't anticipate that originally. So the city required us, we went ahead, we're getting a brand new kitchen with new appliances. The upstairs restrooms are going to be really nice, especially compared to what they are now. The floors are being refinished upstairs and downstairs. It's really going to be terrific when it's done. So we haven't cut any corners. We're doing this right. We wanted to do it right the first time and not come back and just piecemeal things. So that's where we stand. And of course, we won't have the final numbers until we get the final numbers. But things are moving along and they're on schedule. And what I've seen, one of the decisions we made was to hire Weaver Anderson, who did the original engineering and seismic work. It turned out that we were looking for an architect at the same time. And he said, well, what? Smart to use an architect that's already has the engineers and such on their team, and they came in with the competitive bids. In addition to that, the engineering aspects of it is we wanted a project manager that really knew what was going on. So we tied all three together. And so we've got between Drew Anderson and our contractor, we've got a really strong team going. And it was smart for us to go ahead with outside manager. Okay.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
I'd like to thank John Felton, who's been on top of this project. John has an engineering background. He's out there looking at what's going on. He talks the same language, I've noticed, with the people who are constructing it. And I think you should deserve some recognition for what you have done. And in fact, you're on top of this project. So thank you.
Thank you. All the things I have to do, that's the most fun.
John, could you give us an update on the status of the hold-down bolts? When we first got involved with this, did a sampling, and turned out, lo and behold, the sampling showed that there was a hold-down bolt, but next to it was the nut. And so then a decision was made to remove some of the stuccos to see if that condition existed elsewhere, and what degree. Do you have any feeling as to what's the status of that investigation?
Yes, I do. Of course, we ended up taking all of the stucco off of the building, not just for inspection purposes, but it had to be taken off to find out what the building looked like underneath. And in addition to that, the original stucco that was done with methods that are no longer modern and waterproof and such. And there were a number of changes that were made so that when the stucco is replaced, it takes care of all the problems we had. And an additional problem that we ran into was they used an elastomeric paint to paint the stucco when it was finished. Well, the whole idea was to keep water out. Well, it keeps water out, but guess what else it does? It keeps water in. So the building didn't breathe, and those are the kinds of things that contribute to rot. Now, with regard to the seismic hold downs and such, yes, we found some hardware was never installed. We found a few places where some other things had to be added, and for one of them, for someone who understands the structural aspects of things, where the rafters came down from the roof and tied into the tops of the walls. At one time, the codes required just a single bolt. Well, we had 3 more bolts are being added to distribute the load. I don't want to go into a bunch of technical details, but we found a few things. We've made some improvements, but it was not nearly as serious as it turned out that it could have been. The whole thing was based on a guess and a sample. Andy?
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a note on our Nordby document in here. The contingency is actually 2% and not 20%, because it's a $120,000 difference on this document. It says 20% contingency, $13,000. It's really a 2% contingency. And with that, I would like to also make a formal motion that we accept this change request and approve up to $700,000 for the West Rec Center remodeling project.
Let me ask for clarification. It's already going to go over $700,000. So, and that's because of some of the additional things we found at the meeting today that need to be added and verified. So one of the things that would come into play here is they decided they wanted to take all the exterior piping that was outside of the stucco, which included the fire alarm conduit and some of the electrical conduits, and place it inside the building, so you had a cleaner, more modern look to the building. Remember, we discussed that today, and the fire alarm reallocation was about 3 times to 4 times what they had estimated. Things of that nature come up, and they come up on a weekly basis. So we can approve these prices, but what I'm suggesting is you are going to be going over $700,000. A number, let's say, I would say at what point we should stop for a verification, maybe is $760,000, $70,000.
Yeah, this problem, I want to make sure we got the right impression here. We are on top, and we meet every other week. We are on top of everything that's being done. Nothing's done without being reviewed and signed off with the best choices made from a financial point of view, from an engineering point of view. For example, this question we brought up originally about the piping for the fire water, the sprinkler system being on the outside wall. There's a number of things that aren't good about that. One of them is that it doesn't have real cold weather here generally, but it could freeze. And it's not merely a matter of aesthetics. Anytime you have a penetration through a wall that's supposed to be waterproof, then you're inviting more trouble because water can come into that point. So that's one of the examples of things we're doing to improve the building over its original design. But I think Cassie's point is that $700,000 is a sort of it's a talking number that we've been working with, and knowing full well that there are going to be changes made, and nothing ever seems to go down. It'll always seem to go up. So we don't want any surprises there. Sue?
I heard you say the floors downstairs are going to be refinished. I assume that you mean the locker room. The dance studio, to my knowledge, isn't going to have any work. Is that correct?
No, the dance studio is going to be refinished.
Wow.
It's just as knotted up and marked up as the upstairs floor.
Okay, good.
And that is an additional $16,000 for both floors.
But I didn't ask for that, but I'm very happy to hear that. As a dancer.
John?
Thank you.
What happened, I want to give you an overview about this and about these numbers, is it started out as just being the east and west locker rooms. But then the architect said, well, let's make it last for 40 more years, so then we have to do the stucco. Well, if you go into a building and you're going to redo it, it makes more sense to go in there and redo the whole thing and not leave half of it one way and half of it the other way. So that's the trajectory we're taking, is when you walk in the building, you're not going to find that this light fixture hasn't been changed and this wall color is still the same. You're going to find the interior is completely refinished.
John?
Yes.
2 comments. Well, 1 comment and 1 suggestion. My comment is that my reading of the reports, investigative reports on the building, and what you're saying has to be done for the dealing with the potentiality of earthquake damage, is that the amount of problems and the age of the building, it meant that the original construction was such that it is very antiquated at this time. Also, there was some sloppy work done with some bolts just left on the plates. Some of the plates are rotted out, which would not help the building in a serious earthquake. And then we found 2 corners that were totally rotted out. I think the building was really in serious jeopardy of not surviving a major quake. And there's only one way to find that out, of course, that would happen. But we know that the odds of that survival rate are increased substantially because of what happened. And the second suggestion is that we get an amendment to the motion now on the table to increase the amount of funds to $760,000. I had a question, Cassie, without any detail, on the change request, the amount for the bond, is that for the total bond?
We have to discuss the bond. I just found out some information today that the bond is going to go from $14,000 up to $18,000 because the insurance company that they used to quote it now decided it was going to be $16,000, and then their markup is $2,000, and now they're almost 25% of the way through the project. So a question to the board is going to be, do you want to spend the extra $18,000 on a completion bond?
Okay, so the answer is the number on the change request here is the total bond.
No. The
It's not
number
just for the
on-
change request.
No, this is an old
Right.
proposal. This is 1013. Bill from Nordby Construction just told me this at the construction meeting this morning.
Okay, but when they put it on the change request, I'm not asking this clearly. When they put it on the change request, they were suggesting that this change request produced a bond cost
No.
indicated here. Thank you.
No.
I think what occurs to me here is if we go ahead with a motion to set a particular limit at this point, it's a guess. And I'd like to caution everybody, don't be surprised if we don't have to come back and revisit this again. You know, I bet my life on it that we will. So the question is, do we really want to fix a number, or do we want to set a maximum number, or do we want to wait until we have a little more information? Depends how often we want to go through this cycle.
Well, we've already started it, so we need to approve some expense.
There's no question about that. So Bob?
I'll second the motion with Alan's amendment to it, the 760.
Okay, would you read the motion, please?
Accept change requests and approve up to $760,000 for West Rec Locker Room project.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second.
Just say it. Okay. Thanks for that.
Okay. So the original motion has been amended, and the maker of the original motion is accepted the modification to the new number of $760,000. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you.
John?
Yes, sir.
I have an apology. I should have included Cassie in my thanks for being on top of the project. Cassie's been out there along with John Felton on this project all the time. Cassie's actually on top of everything. So.
Mark's been in on this too. And there's a lot of work shared by a lot of people to make this a success. So the trouble when you start naming people, there always a hazard of leaving someone out and get their feelings hurt. But I think you got most of the bases covered. Thank you. Okay, item 11B, the Burger Garden project. I can make a comment on that, but I'm going to turn it over to Manager Turner first to bring us up to date.
Now it turns red. Mark, what's up?
go back to old technology.
All right, what it seems like in general is the comments on the Burger Gardens project is generally favorable, including looks good, nice work, fantastic, a place of calm, looks great, used like a town square. Some comments were need more shade, wooden benches complement the wooden arbor, water feature in front of the burger. The only one who actually opposed the plan just said it was a waste of money. So, and there's always one of those. So what is going to be happening next is they're going to be making a presentation in front of the your committee, the finance committee, tomorrow. So that's the next step.
John, as the liaisons to the the Landscape Improvement Committee, I want to add a couple of things to this report that were discussed at the last Landscape Improvement Committee meeting, and that is that it's clear that we can apply for and most likely receive substantial grant money for taking out lawn and putting in a demonstrative low water use garden. But the first place is the city itself, but there are many other possibilities to get funding. And the second thing is a lot of things we expect to get paid for by memorial donations, as the proverbial chairs or benches in memory of so-and-so. And lastly, the Landscape Improvement Committee is considering putting sculptures around the area, and then again, that would be on a very low cost to OVA method by either donations or temporary loans or such things as that. And then the last thing I want to report on the LIC is that it has obtained over 500 daffodils, which we will start planting sometime after December the 1st. And we expect and have been authorized to purchase wildflower seeds, which we will obtain from Harmony Farms and plant those, mainly poppies, throughout the area. Thank you.
Is this on?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to make a couple of comments on this issue if I could. As everybody knows, Oakmont has very limited land available for any future expansion. There is now a committee underway looking at the entire Burger Center. We have a long-range planning committee looking at a whole bunch of aspects of the future of Oakmont. I would caution the board that it might be premature to use this piece of property out here that is one of the few vacant pieces of property we have until you know exactly what the long-range plans are going to be for entire Oakmont and particularly for this building. I think you might be spending money that you'd have to reverse at some time in the future. I apologize for this suggestion to the long-range, or to the Landscape Improvement Committee. They've been working on this for a long time, and I realize that. They put in a lot of hard work, but I really think it might be premature to approve this project at this time. My personal opinion. Thank you.
There's certainly an argument for that, but what that overlooks is that this is not a non-garden area. It is not an area that is unused. It is being used now as a lawn, and we are paying for that lawn exorbitantly, and we will continue to pay exorbitantly to maintain that lawn. What we're looking at, and we haven't done the financial aspects of putting in a garden there and taking out the lawn, but that's the real key to it, and that's what we have to see is when does the lawn start costing, well, when does a new low water use garden become much more financially profitable than a lawn and that we have to maintain? It's not land that's not being used. It is used now. It's a question of can we use it in a cheaper way that is more aesthetically pleasing? And we're not talking about, I think when the final analysis comes down, we're not talking about a whole lot of money. We should be able to decrease it substantially or do it in stages so that it's not a lot of money.
Where's the annual dog show going to go after this? Where's the annual dog show going to be after this?
On the pickleball
No,
There you
it
go, on the
shouldn't.
pickleball court.
The plans call for a lot of area that is either crushed granite or walkway or cement, so there'll be plenty of room for the dog show. Alan, not to be contentious or anything, but I may be behind the curve here a little bit, but we had a presentation last month from Lori Cagman about a potential garden, square, whatever, with pathways and benches. And frankly, I did not know at that time that we had somehow come up with money to hire a landscape architect to do something like that. So that was new to me. What you said today is new to me also, that you have funding for wildflowers and seeding. And as one board member who may be, like I said, behind the curve on this, I haven't seen a whole lot of news coming through the iPad telling me that this is a project that's under consideration. It's like, you know, this is news to me. So suddenly there's money being spent and this board member doesn't know about this. Thank you. Well, I was hoping to announce it today. I made a proposal myself to the management suggesting that we spend a couple $100 to purchase seeds and soil to sow throughout common areas and areas that are susceptible to wildflowers. I have, over the last 4 or 5 years, been doing a couple $100 worth of daffodil plantings throughout. And all I can say is I've tried to publicize those and get people to volunteer regularly for that planting. And this is, the daffodils are just an extension of what's been going on for a long time. Secondly, the seeds are a new thing, although they've been discussed for years by the Landscape Improvement Committee, and the board allowed the management to have leeway over minor projects and to approve them. And this, if you want me to bring $200 deal and have a 3-hour discussion, I'll be glad to do it. But it just inadvertent that I didn't tell you I should. And I will copy you all my emails. I don't want the copies. And try to get you out there as a volunteer. Now that I understand it's an operational thing.
I'm going to intercede here for a moment, no pun intended. See, seeds, talk about cost of seeds, that's a minor. I want everybody to understand that this project over here that they're looking at and done some preliminary plans and a presentation doesn't mean it's a signed off, ready to go project authorized or going to authorize today or even next month or the next month after that. It's something that they're looking at. So I don't want anyone to leave here today with the impression that, oh, that's going to be the next thing we're going to do. We don't know if we're going to do it yet. We might do it, and we might not do it. There are a lot of things to consider. And Earl Herman's comments were heard, and a lot of what he has to say makes sense too. So there won't be any decision on that today anyway. Next item, 11C, has to do with recommendations for the board election process, which I'm really happy to see. I think personal point of view, it's time for us to kind of update the way we do and look at things. And so it certainly deserves discussion. You got the floor, sir.
Thank you, John. I'm Dutch Licklider, Chairman of the Communications Committee, and
Can you move that right in front, like talking to the end?
Dutch Licklider, Chairman of the Communications Committee, and it's my extreme pleasure, John, to bring before this board a proposal that has no dollar amount attached to it, zero, okay? But on a cost-benefit ratio, I believe it is infinite in as much as it has no cost. What we're talking about is a proposal to add to the current election process some ideas that will provide candidates for the board better access and better opportunities to inform the public about their views. Currently, the process is simply the candidates are offered an opportunity to provide a background, a resume that's published in the Oakmont News. And some month or 6 weeks later, there is a candidates night. And in between, there's really no other opportunity for them. So this was discussed at your workshop in October. And basically, the Communications Committee has taken it on with the leadership of Andy Altman, our liaison. We've had a subcommittee that has worked on this and hashed around many different ideas. And basically what they have recommended is as follows: that all candidates should be provided a list of questions concerning issues that are important to the residents of Oakmont. The questions shall be prepared by experienced journalists who are members of the Communications Committee and then submitted to the candidates. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to respond to the questions in either written format or in a videotape interview. The written responses will be published in the Oakmont News, and the video responses will be posted on the OVA website. We suggest that the Communications Committee shall be assigned the responsibility to administer this process in a timely manner and fair and equitable to all candidates. So Andy has been extremely helpful in this. Would you like to say anything, Andy, about the process that we...
Thank you, Dutch. This actually came to the board as a recommendation from some community members to solve two problems. One, Dutch alluded to, which is to give candidates the opportunity to express views about certain issues or themselves that would go beyond the bio that gets put into the Oakmont News, or questions that are lobbed at them at candidates night. But it also gives the community a chance to hopefully better explore the candidates through these questions that are developed by the journalists to be open and equitable so that people can gauge better what the candidates' feelings are, what their motivations are, et cetera, as far as how they would act as a director. Just as an example, one of the questions I think that was thrown out there as a prime possibility to be asked would be an open question. What do you feel are current important issues or vital issues within Oakmont, and how would you influence them as a director? I don't think anybody, to be fair, I don't think anybody's going to be asking so much topical questions, because there would be a perceived advantage to incumbents answering questions versus folks who have not served on the board. So it's going to be more open questions to find out how people would react to certain issues. And I want to thank Dutch and Harriet Hawk and Jim Brewer, Marty Thompson, and Yvonne Frauenfelder for all the help that they provided in doing this.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Dutch, thank you very much.
Yes, Bob.
And I had, because I was tasked with getting a chair for the nominating committee, some things came up in my mind, be they sensible or not. And I want to thank Harriet Paul, especially, and Andy for answering those questions and taking quite some time. My main concern was is it making the nominating committee's job harder to find candidates? And I'm not suggesting that anybody should answer that question, but just allow me to say that and put it into your mind. But this whole thing should be thrown out on a technicality, really, because Harriet Paul promised me, I think in writing, that she would not bring her needles to the meeting.
And there she is.
And there she is.
No, I said I'd put them down when you had questions that I needed to address.
And did you?
You haven't said anything I don't know the answer to.
All right.
Actually,
I said,
Bob.
put them down and pay attention.
With
When I have to
technical
research
objection
it.
withdrawn.
Actually, Bob, that question was discussed at our communications committee. And we thrashed it around, particularly the video, if that might be somewhat intimidating to potential candidates. And our conclusion was that the candidates need to be video ready. At their first board meeting, they are going to be on the video. And so it's not something that is not going to happen.
Last night, fortified by wine provided by a young lady, it was revealed to me, and I agreed 100%, that sitting up on the stage with a microphone and a camera and 200 guests was more intimidating than sitting down with you and Gary.
Absolutely.
So I withdraw that completely.
Doug, I would like to see the candidates' packet contain information that would assure continuity of the issues that were developed in the existing board so that the new board can follow through and have it come to fruition. That was one of the things I noticed when I came on the board, which is April. It was probably August or September before we really became apprised of what was going on previously.
Herb, I could not agree more. If you think about the magnitude of the job that the board undertakes and the rapid turnover that could happen on the board, you have 4 new members potentially coming on the board in the next 4 or 5 months. So I couldn't agree more that the continuity, understanding of the issues of what's going on now, what's coming down the pike, and that would be part of the process.
I think those are excellent points. I'll speak for myself. It took about a year just to come up to speed to figure out what the heck's going on. I mean, you might think you know what's going on, and you might think you understand what pressures you're taking on when you sit down in this chair. You got a surprise coming. I don't mean to scare anybody away, but to go back to what you said earlier about somebody who might be intimidated about having to be interviewed, that's just a warm-up for this job. I mean, if you don't want to sit down and get interviewed, you have to question about whether you really want to sit up here. That's all. I don't mean that in a funny, it sounds funny, but it's really not funny. It's a serious question to have to ask. This is quite a commitment. And I don't say that to scare anybody away, but I think that need to be said. Thank you.
One of the other things we spoke about in the subcommittee was also that this is a learning experience for the communications committee. It's a new process, and the intent is to go about it kind of progressively to see how it works out. There's not going to be anything so much set in stone, and it's just going to learn. We're going to learn as we go along, and hopefully do it well this year and improve on it in years to come.
That's right. I think we're particularly concerned about the video interviews, that they be done in an even fashion. And it's going to take a little experience to do that, but we hope to be able to do them rapidly, like all in one day or 2 days at most. And they would not be released until they're all released. So those kind of things we have been thinking about.
A point of order, do we need a motion for this?
We'd like to have approval of the board for this process.
I move that accept as a policy for the election process the last 2 paragraphs that have been submitted.
We have a second? Second by Director Giddings. Discussion?
Can you state the
Yeah, would you restate the motion, please?
I move that we accept as part of the policy of the Oakmont Village Association for the election of for the Board of Directors, that the paragraphs that begin with "all candidates shall be provided a list of questions concerning," etc., down to the second paragraph, end of the second paragraph. Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Thank you very much.
Unanimous. Thank you. I think this is really terrific, a big step forward, huge. And Harriet, thank you for doing this, bringing this up originally. That takes us to item 11D. We have 3 account referrals to collection. We need to approve the action to go ahead and do that.
I have a question. Were all of these people contacted?
Yes, no response.
May I ask a question regarding to that question?
What's your question?
Did somebody contact them personally? Are they all alive still?
I don't know. In the case of 2, I just went to their answering machine. They're elderly people. In the case of the 3rd, it's a repeat delinquent account handled by an attorney in San Jose, Los Gatos, something like that.
It's an attorney in San Mateo?
Yeah.
Oh, he should be hung immediately. I would suggest that it would be appropriate. In one real estate transaction recently, somebody neglected to contact the estate of the deceased person, and after everything got messed up in the sale of the property because of that outstanding lien, and it just made a lot more work and a lot of hard feelings for some people. I think we should verify, especially the elderly, what their situation is by personal contact. The 3rd case, I would move that we immediately approve action on that.
So I understand your motion is, on this item, is on unknown person number 1 and unknown person number 2, that we contact them to make sure that they're not deceased before we take any further action. And on the 3rd person, who's represented by attorney, that we act.
And the account number needs to be read into the minutes.
Okay, the account number is 801-601 and 801. Now, it may look like a duplicate, but there's a bunch of secret X's in front of those for privacy purposes, and therefore the difference may lie.
Do you want me to clarify?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to clarify?
Please do.
The first 801 is the attorney. The second 2 numbers are the elderly residents.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
But John, excuse me, yes, I have discussion. Did you say you were aware of one of these people? No? Okay. Does exempting the other 2 until we make a further determination change standard policy in the office? Or long-standing policy in the office?
No, no, not for the last 6 months. We've been trying much harder to try and contact these people, so another month or so trying to contact them won't matter. But the other thing I keep forgetting to say is when we're going to be sending people to collections, their account numbers need to be actually listed on the agenda. So they know or don't know that they're going to be discussed.
You do understand that they are sent multiple written documentations of the status of their account?
Yes.
And they do not come back to the representative,
Yes.
the financial company?
Yes.
So they are being received?
Right, doesn't matter.
I call the question. Mr. Giddings? No further discussion? Who was this? Fran Diaz. All in favor? Passed unanimous. This brings us to item 12. Anything that we'd like to discuss, bring up at a future meeting for an agenda? Moving right along, past master, or any particular things we have accumulated on our list?
No, the only thing that was discussed was that you had wanted the OCDC to contact the Caltrans regarding synchronizing the traffic lights on Highway 12.
Okay, thank you. Motion for adjournment. No, that was taken as I made the motion. We are adjourned, thank you.